Okay, this is Chapter 2, Lesson 6, Estimating with Percents. The essential question for this lesson is, when is it better to use fraction, decimal, percent? So as you do these problems, you have to ask yourself, when is it better to use a fraction, decimal, or percent? There's two goals for this lesson. Number one, you're going to estimate the percent of a number. Number two, you're going to estimate using the rate per hundred. Okay, and by the way, this lesson starts on page 137 and ends on page 143. Alright, goal number one, you're trying to find a solution that makes sense. You're trying to make the problem that's easier to do in your head, and you're going to use compatible numbers. Okay, keep in mind, mental math, that's what you always want to be doing, mental math if you can. Compatible numbers, what's that? Friendly numbers, and what that does, it makes mental math easier. I kind of said that already. And it involves rounding. Let's keep that in mind, rounding. Numbers that end in 0, multiples of 10. Alright, we're going to start with the got it on page 138. So I'm going to do pencil, the GI, page 138. I believe it goes up to 140. Let me check that. 140, yes. Alright, starting with letter A. Let's see. We have estimating the percent of, we're asking for 48% of 76. Okay, the best way to do this would be to multiply, right? But we're trying to estimate, we're trying to make this easier so we can do this in our head. Okay, 48%, I'm thinking, okay, it's close to 50%, right? That's rounding. Now, depending on the number, it could have gone actually to 40, okay? So it won't always be rounding up, you might have to round down. But for now, let's just leave it at that. So 50%, pretty close to 40, 8. Now, 76, again, I'm thinking of multiples of 10, it's pretty close to 80. Alright, so I'm looking for 50% of 80. Alright, 50% of 80. Now I know 50% is half. What's half of 80? No, that should be pretty basic. It's 40. Okay. Again, that's the answer for letter A. This is one sample answer, but this is the closest one to what the actual answer would be. Okay. So let's go on to letter B. Guys, do not overthink this. Do not overthink this. Just do what you can. We're doing letter B at this moment. There it is. Letter B. Now we have 18% of 42. Okay, again, in my head I'm thinking 18%. Multiples of 10, it's close to 20%. 42, pretty close to 40. Okay, 20% of 40. What can we do? Well, I know 10% of this would be 4, right? So, you know what, let's just do the math. 20%. 20 per 100 times 40 over 1. I changed them both to fractions. Okay. I'm going to simplify it. Okay. Alright, we have 20. 100 divided by 20 is 5. Times 20 divided by 40 divided by 20 is 2 over 1. Alright, 40 over 5. That's actually a division problem. So the answer is 8. Okay. Now, more than one way to do this. Now I was thinking in my head multiple ways of doing this, but I stuck with that. So, letter C. Alright. 73% of 41. Okay. Let's see. I can do 70%, maybe. I'm going to think about this. I can go to 70, I can go to 75, I can go to 80. Look at this. Alright, this is definitely closer to 40. Okay, now if I'm thinking of groups of 10, I can definitely think of 4 groups of 10. Okay, so I'm making 4 groups. You know what, I'm going to try 75. Again, if I make a mistake, I can always erase it. 75% as a fraction goes to 3/4. Okay, there's some fractions, some you need to know as percents, some percents you need to know as fractions. 70%, 3/4 of 40. Okay. Well, let's see what we have here. 3 times 40 over 4. That's 120 over 4. That's division. I'm making groups of 4 out of 20. Alright, let's look at this. I cannot make groups of 4 out of 1, so 0. I can make 4 groups of 4 out of 12, and that's 3 groups of 4. 4 times 3 is 12. Okay. But I kind of skipped a step. Got all excited there. Anyways, 120 divided by 4 is 30. Is there another way to do this? Many ways. Could have changed this 75 over 100, changed this to 40 over 1, and then did math. Or I could have changed it to a decimal number, 0.75, and then multiply that times 40 and see what we get. But the whole point is to be able to do this in your head, if you can. Now, I know I did the math here, but let's think about this. I'm breaking something up into 4 groups of 4, right? So, I just want to go back and show you what's going on. Can I break up 40 into 4 groups? So I have 10, 10, 10, 10. But I only want 3 of those. That's also how you get 30, okay? This is what I saw in my head, but I wanted to show you the math as well. Alright, on to letter D. Alright, it is a word problem. Kayla, I don't know how to really say her name, decided to donate 30% of her savings. If she has $238 in her savings account, about how much will she donate? Alright, so wait, 30% of savings. Alright, I'm writing down what I see for here. But her savings is $238. Whew, okay, look at that. Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to change this to 240. It's pretty close to 240. This I can change really fast. I like this. It ends in a 0. That's a nice even number. But now we have that 30%. What are we going to do with that? That means we're going to break up, well, let's do the math. 30%. Looks like a lot of work, doesn't it? Alright, let's do this. Let's see if we can simplify stuff. Alright, 30% divided by third. But you know what? We can do that. Sure. It doesn't work. Three-tenths times 240 over 1. Okay. We can simplify this way. Divide by 10. They both have a common factor of 10. And we have 3 over 1. 240 divided by 10 is 24 over 1. Now 3 times 24 is what? Let's see. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 2 is 6. 72. Alright, let's get started with D. We have a word problem. Okay, Kaylee decided to donate 30% of her savings. If she has $238 in her savings account, about how much will she donate? Alright, so we have 30% of 238. Alright, this is pretty close to 240. I'm going to leave it there. Alright, and 3%. Well, let's see what that means. I'm going to bring that down as well. 30% of 240, right? going to multiply these two. Now we have a couple options. We can just straight out multiply this times that, change this to decimal point first, right? But let's see if we can play with it a little bit. 30% of 100. We're going to see if we can make equivalent fractions. Now since we want 100%, right, 30 per 100, 100% is everything, so 240 here would be that we have everything, right? Okay. I'm just playing with this. Let's just play with it, see what happens. Can I simplify this? This is just going to be weird. I can do 2.4, but I don't like that. Let's see if we can make it smaller. Right, if I simplify it, I notice they have a common factor of 10. Gives me 3/10. Okay. Okay. Now, I know if I go to multiply 24 and 10, I get 240. I can multiply that times 3. And this will give me about 72. Now how did I do that? 3 times 20. Let me just do the math in my head so you can see what I did. 3 times 20 plus 4. Alright. That gives me 60. Plus 12. And that's 72. So, 72 is the answer. Okay. About 72. Okay. Alright, we're moving on to goal number 2. The whole deal of using per 100. What that means, you're literally saying for every 100. And that leads us to percent. We've said this before, and I'll say it again. Percent per 100. And the same thing for every 100. So let's look at the got it's. Letter E. It says, estimate using a rate per 100. Alright, 27% of 307. Now, you have to use the rate of per 100. Alright, so let's look at this. 27% is literally 27 for every 100. Okay? But we want 307. Okay? 307 is pretty close to 300, so let's just go there. So then the question you have to ask, okay, if I want 300 and I have 100, that means I have to multiply this by 3 to get 300. Well, guess what? You're going to do the same thing over here then. 27 times 3, which is what? Let's see. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2, 8. 81. For every 300. So let's look at this again. 27% of 307. We're using the rate per 100. 27% is 27 for every 100. We have 307, but we decided to make that a compatible number of 300. Okay, 300. To go from 100 to 300, I multiply by 3. And then that means I do the same thing for this. Look at that. Done. Letter F. This might be easier. When you take the quiz, you can use either method, whichever one you're more comfortable with. Alright. 21% of 96. Okay then, here's the deal. Alright, 21% is literally 21 for every 100. Now, some of you might already notice this. You can't really see what I just did, sorry about that. 21% of 96, 21 for every 100. You notice that 96 is pretty close to 100, right? So, if we have 100, and we want 100, well then, this is pretty much going to stay the same, okay? Now this is just a sample answer. This could be more. You might have said, well, can it be 20? Sure. Works. 20 works. Either one's fine. Right, that leads us to a word problem. Let's see, let's read it first always. Last year, 24% of the zoo visitors were under the age of 3. Last week, the zoo had 996 visitors, but how many of the zoo visitors were under the age of 3? Alright. 24% of zoo visitors were under the age of 3. Okay. Fair enough. And we want to know, since last week they had 996 visitors. Am I copying this right? Nope. Apologize for that, guys. 996. Alright. Work on this first. Change this first. 24% is 24 for every 100. Okay? 996, I'm going to say it's 1,000. Okay? Alright, so we're going to go from 100 to 1,000. Now let me explain what I just did. Wait, I might have lost some of you. 24% of 996 visitors. So what I'm saying is 24% is 24 for every 100 visitors. That's by definition what 24% is. But if we have 1,000 visitors, how many of those are going to be under the age of 3? Well, they'll go from 100 to 1,000 and multiply by 10. Guess what? I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay. 24 times 10 is about 240. So there's your answer. About 240. Okay, that's it for this.